should actually be the president of the STUC by now, but it took a virus to stop this woman. So, comrades, let's see the applauding. Let us rise for Mary Senior, UCU and STUC. Mary.
Thank you, Susan. First, I want to thank Edinburgh and Midlothian Trades Councils for the invitation to speak at your rally today. I'm proud to bring May Day greetings from the STUC's General Council. I want to thank your committees and officers, especially Des Lockney and Lynn and Rob Patterson. Thank you for the work you do, day in, day out, supporting affiliated trade unions, local union branches and working people and the issues that matter to them and their families. Your vital work on affordable housing with the Living Rent campaign. Your work against local government unions, uniting local government unions fighting against council budget cuts. Your internationalism, the solidarity you actively demonstrate with people facing persecution, poverty and inequality across the globe. And here at home, thank you for the support and solidarity shown to my own union, the University and College Union. The support you've given UCU members at Heriot Watt, at Edinburgh and at Queen Margaret Universities over the past 6 months is much appreciated. When we've been striking against attacks to our pay and pensions, challenging pernicious casual contracts, spiralling workloads and discrimination, we've had your practical support on the picket lines and your solidarity. And your commitment to climate justice, the theme for today's May Day rally. Thank you. The climate emergency, a collectively bargained just transition to zero carbon and tackling climate inequality are key priorities of the STUC. The climate emergency was due to be debated during our planned April Congress. And yesterday, a year after declaring the climate emergency, the Scottish Government had been due to lay the updated climate change plan before our Parliament. The plan and our Congress are both delayed. The STUC was preparing key interventions at the COP26 conference too, urging governments to match the declaration of a climate emergency and ambitious emissions targets with targets for high quality unionised jobs in renewables, calling for public ownership in energy, demanding real meaningful action to address fuel poverty, transport to be nationalised and investment in our train network. And finally, and not least, the creation of a national green construction company to undertake green new build and deep retrofitting by unionised workers on secure contracts. While we know the COP26 won't be held this year, the STUC will continue to push these priorities, as will my own union UCU, thanks to some sterling work from our branches and members who are pushing this agenda, especially QMU branch rep Eirik Scandrett, who I'm sure is in the virtual crowd here today. There's a bitter irony that the global coronavirus lockdown has meant a 30% reduction in demand for oil and gas. Carbon emissions in China were down 18% in February and March, and in the EU, declining power demands and depressed manufacturing means emissions are predicted to fall by around 9% of the 2020 target. Here in Scotland, in our cities, we're seeing a glimpse of what pedestrian and cyclist-friendly streets look like. With far fewer cars on the road, reduced journeys, lower emissions and fumes, the much less polluted atmosphere makes our government-sanctioned daily run, walk or cycle much more of a pleasure. But friends, this planetary breather is nothing to celebrate if we don't force our governments into action. As Friends of the Earth Scotland has said, this is merely a short-term blip if we simply bail out oil and gas companies and let them get back to business as usual. If we do not commit to building a greener economy out of lockdown, if we don't maintain our reductions in journeys, if we don't support that just transition strategy to use economic restart funds to support workers and communities and the green energy jobs, then we are failing our children, failing our planet, and failing the future. The coronavirus pandemic is shaping our approach to climate justice but it's also shaping our approach to the economy and wider society. The last 2 months have shown us what we actually need to survive. And when we come out of lockdown and move on from the pandemic, we need to look to a resource-based economy, an economy that meets the needs of all people in a fair and equitable way, that minimises the climate risks and shares the Earth's capacity with all. If COVID-19 has demonstrated anything, it's shown us that capitalism does not work. It's underlined that austerity and the deep cuts to public services have diminished our ability to respond to the global health pandemic. And let's be clear, comrades, that it's been this divisive right-wing Tory government of Eton millionaires that has conspired to weaken our NHS, decimate our vital public services, cut our social security safety net, and cripple our social care and education systems. We are seeing how ill-equipped our hospitals, care homes, frontline services are when faced with such a public health emergency. This is criminal negligence, the failure of our governments, their woeful distraction with their pet Brexit project, their cruel attacks on workers, families, disabled people, their scapegoating of Black and minority ethnic people, of migrant workers, of the international workers who are keeping our health and social services afloat. This is criminal. The failings on personal protective equipment, of not testing and tracing contacts, of leaving our care homes to fend for themselves. This is institutional failure, government negligence and corporate manslaughter on a grand scale. And as a trade union and labour movement, we pledge to hold them to account. And we have to move on from that desperate day last December to convince people that a COVID death toll approaching 30,000 was not inevitable. There is responsibility. Government cannot abdicate this responsibility. And finally, we have to avoid what I'm hearing people call the clap trap. We cannot let populist applause substitute for fair pay, proper health and safety, and real respect for the true key workers in our NHS, care homes, supermarkets, public transport and schools. So on this May Day, let us commit to coming out of lockdown and rebuilding our economy based on need and around workers, not profit. Now, I want to end by quoting one of my friends, someone who works in the NHS, someone who has student debt, completing a PhD, someone who's not usually political or active in unions or parties. I know Anne because in normal times we go running together. So last weekend she said, "It's an interesting time to be a frontline hero. I feel infuriated that it's taken a pandemic for the government and as a result the wider public to now be showing gratitude for what people do endlessly and tirelessly every day in the UK. Please can we try and change things about how we treat the people in society doing essential jobs? And I don't just mean doctors, I mean everyone who selflessly grafts day in and day out, providing services that we all need and rely on. So let's support Anne and all of those key workers. Let's rebuild our economy based on the Earth's resources, workers and their families. Thank you.